Hello, welcome to Chew on This, a food talk show with Malaysia's top culinary talent, exploring the many influences our palate has on our personality through food, drink, and banter. I'm Tian, and I'll be your host into this world of good eats and gastronomy. On today's episode, a famed chef best known for Enfant and Chien Labo here in the studio with me to talk about luxury food, fine dining, and all things gastronomy. Because who better talk about luxury and gourmet dining than one of the most extravagant chefs I know?
Oh my god, extravagant?
Yeah, do you know what extravagant means, the definition?
I'm not extravagant.
Without restraint.
No, that's not me. I'm very controlled.
Oh, really?
See, I just took over your intro.
Okay, but I would say somewhat extravagant.
No.
Okay. So, you're not only a chef owner, a chef patron, James, you wear many hats. Tell us, what kind of exciting projects do you have these days and what are you up to?
Right. It's been a very interesting pre-COVID, COVID, and now post-COVID. After COVID, I restarted my food group, Meta. Meta is a group that, again, predominantly on the luxury segment, because that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years. Now, after 2 years of seeing COVID settling down and where the market is trending towards, I thought that we can repivot again to basically create new exciting adventures on redefining what luxury is. I like things with gravitas, things that is like with history. A bit of history, weight. I think that is one element that gives a definition to luxury. Having yourself being priced up but doesn't carry weight, doesn't have the sex appeal.
Right.
The French have that perfect word, the je ne sais quoi, the X factor.
They're masters of it.
Yeah, and if you don't have that X factor, you don't have that gravitas, there is no meaning behind that whole luxury feel.
Yeah, I think you're the perfect candidate to talk about luxury today. Really, the theme of today's episode is, it revolves around luxury food and luxury dining, but I really want to ask the central question is, can luxury food or dining go too far in instances?
Yeah, I think in some cases, depending on where you live, I think it's a cultural evolution point. So if the country culture is very defined, very illustrious, very long, their definition of luxury will be very different.
Of course.
If we look at, for example, France versus a country like China.
Okay.
It's almost a juxtaposition, for one or a better word, right? You cannot draw any parallel. The French style of luxury is all about being understated.
Like effortless.
Yeah, it's meant to just exist. Yeah. Whereas the Chinese culture, we are imbued with very long civilization history. We actually created lux before the French did.
The gold bars.
Well, we were wearing silk.
Yeah.
We created silk.
Silk Road.
Right? We created gold threads. We created big, huge fashion when most of the European were still not at that point. Right? We had colored dyes. We had beautiful color pigments on all our wares, on our jewelry, all that. We defined it way long before everyone else did.
That's true.
But when that cultural revolution started, all this were deemed no good.
That's right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And now, look at where they are. They're defining their own entire identity. And their way of luxury is not comprehensible. And I think people are still trying to understand. Then you look at places like Vietnam and India. India lux is another phenomenal stratosphere, right?
Extravagant?
Yeah, that is extravagant. The Middle East.
Yeah, that's also extravagant.
Well, I think that is unimaginable.
That's true. For a lot of people, it is unimaginable.
It's unimaginable, but for them, it's normal, right? Yeah. So what's normalcy?
Exactly. So I we'll get into this a little bit later as well, but I feel like luxury also has subjective connotations for sure. Before we get into the topic though, let's do a little bit of warm-up. I like to start the show by trying some amuse-bouche or snacks, if you like, that fit to today's theme. And normally how we do this is we taste the 3 snacks, we give our opinions, and we give a little rating to let our listeners know whether they should pick it up or not.
I love to snack.
You love to snack?
I snack more than I eat. Well, I think because I taste.
Right.
So I taste a lot. And tasting, for some people, are like snacking. For me, I prefer to eat. I like to taste many things.
Okay.
I don't like one full meal.
Okay, like a multi-course, like a full-on.
But having said that, I don't like buffet.
Okay, makes sense. So what kind of things you normally snack at home when you're like watching the TV or?
At home, I like a lot of nuts.
Oh.
Yeah, I love the Indian murukus and all the, the spicy bits. I love it. I love a lot of our local snacks. Yeah.
Such as?
I don't know what they're called, but those fried tapioca slices.
Yes, like the ones you get at Chinese New Year?
Well, that one's not tapioca.
It's arrowroot.
Those what do you call
the yellowish,
them?
Crunchy,
that
like
one is
chips.
not. That is not. That is
I thought it was
way more expensive.
Ngaku, isn't it?
Ngaku.
What is ngaku in English?
I can't remember.
Arrowroot?
Is it arrowroot?
I don't know.
Yeah, but anyhow, tapioca is that long,
right? Tapioca chips,
yeah, tapioca chips, and I like it the ones that are coated with chili
and so strong flavor, crunchy.
Yes, because small bites you need big flavors.
Okay, so since we're talking about luxury today, what about when you want to spoil yourself, and what kind of like luxury snack would you indulge in?
My luxury snack when I really want to spoil myself is, of course, our own caviar. Yeah, I have a partnership in caviar from Iran. So I like to snack on those. Yeah.
Well, funny you said caviar because our first snack is actually
fake caviar.
Oh, yes, it's full luxury. I would say it's something cheaper, trying to mimic luxury. They get this truffle flavored things. So I found this potato chips in a store. It's by a brand called In Essence. It's from Spain.
Oh,
and it's black caviar flavored potato chips. It says here, a sophisticated snack of delicate flavors and marine aroma of black caviar pearls. Can you believe that?
Well, we have to try.
All right. Okay, straight up, it doesn't really smell like caviar. No? I can let you have the honors of the first taste.
No, it's
right?
very artificial. I think because of the oil. Big potato though.
Okay, what does caviar? What good caviar is supposed to taste like?
Good caviar should be burst of umami, right? It's not meant to smell like fish. If it starts to smell like fish and overly salty, it means it's been too long. It's been in the brine too long.
I see.
Yeah. So natural caviar are not salted. So their shelf life are very small and short.
I see.
And the integrity of the eggs are meant to be very...
like poppy.
It's depending on where it comes from.
Okay.
All the poppy ones are usually the Russian caviar.
I see.
So what we experience now with Iranian and so forth, they're not so poppy because of what they eat and where they're from.
Okay, please have a taste and let me know if it tastes like real caviar. There is that saltiness and a little bit.
That's what we don't want in good caviar. There's the saltiness. So it tastes more like seaweed.
Yeah, I get that.
So they're mimicking the whole caviar taste with seaweed.
But it kind of tricks the brain into thinking it's a little bit like caviar.
No.
You don't think so?
No. Far from caviar. Next time you try my caviar, then you will know.
Second taste? For
good
confirmation?
potato chip though.
It's quite a solid potato chip.
Yeah, it's a good potato chip.
Yeah, I've had a few Spanish potato chips, and this is pretty good. I got this from Dry Grocer. Well, it's this premium flavor. Would you agree?
Premium potato, but I can't, to be professional about it,
Yeah.
I cannot say it's caviar. I say it's a good potato chip.
Close?
No.
Not even close. Okay.
No, that's the whole point, right? When you start talking about expensive, quality, high-end ingredients, they should not be a substitute. It should be the real thing or the fake thing.
Right.
There shouldn't be any in between.
That's true. Kind of like truffles. There's truffle oil, and then there's real fresh truffles, right? Okay, so from a 1 to 10, what would you rate it in terms of like enjoyability or recommendation for someone to pick this up, a bag in the supermarket?
How much is it?
I want to say 15.90, I think.
Okay. I asked the price because that will form my impression of the rating.
Of course.
Particularly if we're talking about Lux, right? Lux means I wouldn't mind whatever it costs.
Right.
But however, I don't feel that it met my Lux category. So I can then go back to, is this worth the money?
Okay.
So
15.90, 1 to 10.
15.90 for the potato, I think it's okay. I'll give it about a 6. Flavor-wise, for the potato, I'm trying to skip the whole caviar notion because I can't taste caviar.
Okay.
Right? I cannot lie to you about this. So I'll give it about a 6.
Okay, that's fair.
Value for money, maybe there are other...
Oh, yeah.
Other
So,
better ones.
fun fact, this same brand does like flavors like Iberico.
Oh.
Yeah, they do.
I think that I'll be very keen. Gio. Anything Gio
Okay.
I like.
Next episode. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, it's not really caviar. It's a good potato chip.
It's a good chip.
Yeah, it's a good chip.
The sizes of the chips in the packet
Great
itself
crunch.
looks great. It's not smashed, right? It's not light. It's nice and thick. Sweet, very nice sweet potato. Not oily, not overly seasoned. Just that, where the fuck is the caviar?
Yeah, I mean, when you're trying to mimic caviar, I don't think you're falling. You're setting up yourself for failure. I think it's impossible.
It's not right.
Right?
I think if you just use kombu or wakame, just
Mimic
good
that
seaweed,
oceanic taste.
Yeah, that
Right,
good seaweed, that would have made it a fantastic. I will still pay $15.90. By the way, what's the brand?
In essence.
In essence, pick up the notes, please.
Okay, the last snack we have is brandied almonds from a shop from Tokyo called Mamegen. So, a little bit of, have you heard of Mamegen before?
yeah,
oh,
I
wow. Okay, yeah, I didn't. I got this as a gift a few months back. Little fun fact. So, Mamegen is founded in 1867.
Very expensive.
Yes, it's luxury nuts. Let's just put it that way. Premium nuts. And it's currently owned by a 6th generation owner. It was founded during the Edo period. That's how long ago, just for context. So like, cowboy era.
They do like traditional style
Yes, no
Japanese.
Everything by hand. They only have like 50 people and employees in the factory making all these beans.
Hand it over.
Okay.
Too much advertisement.
Okay. Try it. If you're ever in Tokyo.
10 is a Japo file, so there's bias in there.
Yeah, I would not disagree there. Bit biased.
See? Natural.
Yeah. Just from the smell.
Yeah.
So brandied nuts. It's supposed to. So apparently it's coffee and brandy flavored.
Great texture.
Wow, it does smell like brandy.
Great texture. Even though with the texture, you see that big difference is when people dedicate their time and their focus into making the smallest thing beautiful. This is luxury, because just the texture alone, when we crunch down, there's 3 layers. You got that harder, lighter, and then a bit of air pocket just to get to the nut. And that is really playful and nice.
This is really yummy. Okay, so this based on, I'm going to guess it's a high rating.
It's a good 8 to 9.
Good 8 to 9, yeah, I agree. I would say a solid 8, if you especially like nuts. So next time you're in Tokyo, definitely.
Is this almonds? What is
That's
it?
right, almonds, brandied almonds.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so pick up a box from Mame again.
Yeah, make sure you bring your credit card.
Make sure you bring your credit card. Yeah. Right. All right. So now we get to the meat and gravy of the show. I have so many questions to ask you today. The first topic is the connection, kind of like your connection and our connection to the world of gastronomy. I'll just give you some context. For me, as a young adult, gastronomy was a gateway for me to witness and taste some of the most, some of the creations of the most skilled chefs in the country. I grew up loving food and I grew up revering food in a family, like a food-obsessed family. But gastronomy was always the height for me, like the culmination of all those things. How about you, James?
Gastronomy is interesting because it gives you an insight to culture. You know, as the great sayings goes, tell me what you eat and I'll tell you who you are or what you are.
Yeah.
You know, it is true because when we talk about gastronomy, we're no longer talking about sustenance. We're no longer talking about your Joe Daily. In fact, when you were just talking about your childhood, something popped into my head. It was real luxury to me as a chef in the context of what I did. And I remember having your dad over at Brasserie. I still remember it very vividly. And that was a luxury to me to be able to give somebody my creation and be part of some of their last part of their memories. I have served some of my friends' parents, grandparents, children. I've had friends who had became pregnant and then the baby because of coming to dine, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and then as the baby developed, was eating my food.
Oh.
And when the baby started to eat solid, started to eat my food.
What a blessed baby.
Oh, he is super blessed. And this is not just one. I've had several. So I've been, in that context, that to me is luxury.
Wow, I never thought about it like that way.
Yeah. So it's never the price, but it's the meaning behind it. The absolute meaning behind what we serve forms the element of whether it's luxury or not.
Right.
But when you start doing it for the sake of the dollars, making a burger by adding gold foil and whatever that possibly you think can add a couple more zeros, it's not luxury.
It's just a luxury ingredient.
Well, yes, and you don't need to learn how to cook to do that.
Yeah. Let's start with, I want to know kind of the spark that led you to pursue a career, not only in food, James, but food at the highest level.
Like I said, I like to taste integrity. I like to taste that art. That nut moved me. Without even its history, it's a great nut. It showcased itself proudly as something totally unusual, right? at the highest quality. That's number one. And it now gives me a good memory in my taste bud. And I chase. I didn't want to put down. It's like I'll continue to put it in my mouth. So that gives me a great imprint. And when I see that, it makes me curious. It makes me want to repeat. It makes me want to go look for, how do I do this? How do I make this me and my own and even better? So I am a true believer of something, if you think you're the best, then you're ready to die.
Don't rest on your laurels.
No. It's nothing about resting on your laurels. But there are people who absolutely believe they're at the pinnacle.
They're
at
the
peak.
best, the top.
Yeah,
no one
that's
else.
it. That is really sad because I don't like to think I have found all the answers. Because then there's no more art. There's no more curiosity, right? There's no more discovery.
It ends there. You're not learning anymore.
It's just there. Then you manufacture. Then why do gastronomy? Then you just become fast serve. McDonald's. Nothing wrong. You make money, right? But you just manufacture and produce.
Right.
So gastronomy has a lot of philosophical principles and personal wants behind, the narrative behind each component, each dish. When Michelin talks about it, that's what they're asking for. Where do I see the chef's narrative?
Their personality come through the food.
That's what they're looking for. Do we get that in this neck of the woods?
Right.
So I wasn't being bitchy, but just saying.
No, of course. But on that subject, you're talking about seeing through a chef's personality through the food, through the restaurant, through the experience. You've been surrounded with so many talented chefs around of the same caliber. I want to know what kind of common qualities that you've observed through all these chefs, such as yourself and your peers? What kind of common qualities you guys share when you're cooking at that level?
Stubbornness. Cooking at this level, you're usually not a very confident person.
Really?
Because if you're cocksure, you stop.
But wouldn't you need to have some level of confidence to be proud of what you put on the plate?
Being sure of what you are cooking doesn't mean that you have the confidence that you have created the best. You need that curiosity. You need to say, I can do it better. So that, for me, is that not believing in yourself, you have achieved the best. Right? Usually very stubborn. Usually a little bit insecure, a little bit not confident. Right? And that's when people mistaken it for ego and arrogance.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people say, oh, that fine dining chef, oh, they represent the big brands, he must be very arrogant, blah, 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 blah. But if you really get to know how these people think, it's at a different level.
I completely agree.
Right? And it's the unfortunate thing about gastronomy, it's not subjective. Food is very simple. It tastes good or tastes bad. There's no in between.
No taste normal?
No, because when you pay for it, you always have a barometer.
Right.
Right? So it cannot be something, just because you don't know how to eat. To me, that's totally bollocks. That's bullshit. How can you not know whether it tastes good or don't taste good? Right? We're not talking about where is your best nasi lemak.
Right.
Just where's your favorite?
Most fundamental level.
Yes. So we go into a restaurant, we do a 7-course, a 15-course, a 20-course. I got to know that I have things that I feel, wow.
Right.
That was phenomenal. But bare minimum, it tastes good. Better than somebody else or better than the Joe average. So are we getting that?
Well, that's an interesting question. Yeah.
Just saying.
We'll touch on that later. I actually have a whole topic about that. Okay. So, you've been known to command respect with your craft and with amassing talented people around you, your kitchen teams. What is the one thing you can share about yourself? It could be a philosophy, it could be a habit that may surprise people when it comes to you in your pursuit and your advancement of your craft.
I constantly have to remind myself to allow others to make mistakes. People don't learn if they don't make mistakes. So one thing that people don't know about me is that I like to allow people to make mistakes. So when you're in my kitchen, that's my method of teaching, is that you need to go find out. It's craft. Craft is a skill set. It's not something you just overnight wake up and you're going to have the ability. This is something even the best musician, the best artist has to practice. And that practice is what allow you to also create. Because accidental wrongness may create something new. And that's where a lot of new dishes were discovered.
Has that happened to you before?
Many of the time. I remember I told you, did you ever come to my first ever Krug dinner at Brasserie?
Oh gosh.
Brasserie Enfa?
I can't
with
remember.
Julian Papan. Do you ever eating a dessert of mine where I had a durian creme brulee with blue cheese?
No, I don't think I've had the pleasure.
Yeah. And that was totally accidental. And can you imagine? I was so fucking nuts. I served that to the business development director of the Regent. French guy. Came over. Never tasted durian.
Oh, that was his first time.
Ever. And I just wanted to do it. And it matched so well with the Grand Cuvée. And how did this dish came about? I got so drunk
As all good stories do.
on the boat.
Yeah.
I was so freaking hungry. The only thing that was left in the gully was durian and blue cheese.
Oh my God.
And at that point in time, I thought it was the best idea. So I took the cracker, smeared the blue cheese. I said, oh, fuck, blue cheese. We need something sweet.
Okay.
Look around, and was like, durian. Okay, it's sweet. So I put it on, and it was good. And it was like, wow, this is good. I think I must be drunk. So I called the friends down, and we started feasting on blue cheese and durian.
Oh my God.
And it's shit hot.
I'm just trying to process what it tastes like with champagne in my mind, or the mixture of like blue cheese and durian.
Yeah,
It sounds
Roquefort, which is a goat blue.
in my mind. It says that it shouldn't work together, but
Yes, but it works.
yeah.
And it was spectacular. And because of this daring, crazy nature, caught the eye of the maison. And pretty much after that, they said, look, we really want you to become our family. And our previous last president, Maggie, who now has since left, her parting words with me before she left, she actually sent me a message and said, chef, been a great pleasure working with you, but please remember, don't stop being crazy. That's when you will no longer be welcome anymore. Oh. Yeah, so it was really nice.
Okay, so going back to that, how you allow your chefs to make mistakes. There's a huge, I would say, common thinking that when you're cooking at that level, you cannot afford to make mistakes. People who are not chefs, just normal people who love dining.
You cannot afford to make mistakes during service. It doesn't mean that you can't make mistakes during prep.
I see.
During, when you're that's when your practice is.
Right.
During service, it's showtime. You don't do mistakes because that's when people pay you money. So you don't steal people's money or steal people's experience for your own gain. But during prep, during family meals...
Research.
No, I use family meal as a means of teaching.
Oh, yeah?
So cooking the family meal is something that is very privileged. In the old heydays, I always remember my team loathed to do the family meal because Malaysians are not good at getting criticism, right?
Yeah.
We don't like to be openly criticized. You have to hide in the toilet and tell them softly, and they can walk tall again in front of their friends, they're happy. But if you even tell them they're shit in front of their friends, they will commit suicide. So most of them couldn't stomach it, so everybody didn't want to do family meal. So for a long period of time, I didn't force them. But later on, they realized that the only way to get my attention on how to rectify something they don't know, because I don't give recipes.
I see.
In my kitchen, you learn how to make the food, not how to remanufacture from a recipe. So I give them a guide on what the products are, how to use them, and the basics. Because if you've been at school, you should have really learned the basics. I shouldn't teach you the basics. So unless your fundamentals is shitty, then I have to re-groom you. Then that's a different story.
Right.
So they will use that time to show me skills that they have learned. So I'll deliberately get to order some, not so good ingredient and make it taste good.
So it's kind of like a black box challenge on this cooking.
Pretty much.
Surprise.
Something like that. Yeah, it's like, so if you take it earnestly, you become a really good chef in a very short period of time, because that's how I was taught.
I see. Just to make sure we're on the same page, for those listening at home and don't know what family meals are, it's when the kitchen team gets together and
have a dinner together.
Yes.
A lunch or dinner. No, it's when we sit down and eat together.
It's commonly a tradition for...
some kitchens do it. Usually the smaller kitchen units will do it. So more fine dines, I would say. We don't do many services. So it's usually just evening service or lunch service. So where it is compulsory for the team to get together, to sit down, at least get to know each other, because otherwise you don't have the time.
Yeah. I think it's a great tradition to foster.
Yeah, I think family meals also came about in the European countries because most of the restaurants in the old days are not where you're near other dining facilities that you can just go and grab a meal or something. So you tend to just make your own meal.
I think it's a great tradition anyway. Moving on, I want to ask, how was your experience like learning cooking in Japan and France? So a lot most people know that James has...
That's a
Why?
big topic.
Big topic. Okay, let me widen down the scope for you. What would you say were the most important lessons you learned from your time in these two countries? You know, they're very similar, diametrically similar countries. They both revere food to a very high level. They both, what's that word? Fruits of the terroir. Yeah. Very seasonal, very fresh fruits. These two cultures know. You ask any Japanese person, you ask any French person, they know what comes on in autumn, summer. Very unlike us here.
We had to cook that way, and you learn that because that's when you are trying to express ultimate quality. If you cook something that is off-season, you're not going to get the best of the produce. And we don't see that for Malaysia. In fact, in some ways, we still do that here because we have rain or super rain, right?
Yeah.
Hot or fucking hot. So the plants do grow differently. Like watermelon, over the last 3 weeks, sensational. The local watermelons. So sandy, sweet. It was candy-like. Great sunshine. Lots of rain, in spots. So you get that. But what I learned, and the most important thing that I like to really share with most people, learning how to cook, the techniques, you can do it anywhere. You don't need to go to Japan, you don't need to go to France in this day and age because we have all the cooking schools, all the cooking institutes, right? But why do we need to travel? What's the difference between France and Japan?
Exposure, different ingredients, different cultures, different approaches.
That's the word. Culture. Gastronomy is about culture. We eat differently. How do we structure a meal? What's a kaiseki? What's degustation? Right? Plated meal. Mm-hmm. Plated meal was not invented by the French. A fully plated meal was actually something that was invented in the palace of the Tsars in Russia.
Oh.
In the old days, French eat what we call in banquet, we call chateau style, where big platters are brought to you and then they serve it to you onto your plate. That was the true French style dining. Only through evolution, then we became smaller plates.
I see.
Right? So in Japan, we never had big plates.
Yeah.
It's always been small plates.
It's not like the Chinese, it's very individual.
Yes. Chinese had a bit of a in-between, whole fish, whole duck, whole chicken. So culturally makes these things different. But the other thing that is very important is to understand why people eat the way they do. Why do they eat certain things only during certain time? So that point of reference gives meaning to the whole gastronomy. Otherwise, food is food. Simply put, nasi lemak, you can have a Chinese style, Malay style, Indian style, mamak style, nyonya style.
Yep.
But they're all nasi lemak.
Kind of like chicken curry.
In India, there's no such thing. Right? But we think it comes from India.
That's true.
But it didn't come from India, it came from Britain. So, again, culture. Culture defines, and that gives you the experience and broaden your mind of how we are different.
I see. So would you say during your time in cooking in France and Japan, the biggest takeaway is you learned that cooking is a expression of one's culture, and that allowed you to come back to Malaysia and kind of celebrate that when you started cooking here?
Once I've learned the culture, then I learned to appreciate my own culture, who I am. That is when I form my own narrative. Not trying to invent cuisine. I'm not God. Right? I'm born in the 20th century.
Right.
I wasn't born in the 11th, 12th century where you have the greatest maestro, learning all and creating all the new things because they were developing new ingredients.
Right.
I'm merely taking on what they have passed down to us and try to put my story behind it through who I am.
Right.
Like my reference point of friend Bonnie was joking about my chicken rice. Yeah, I put my spin on my chicken rice. I try to make it the most luxurious chicken rice. Doesn't mean I start shaving truffle, right? Doesn't mean that I have to find virgin hand-picked chilies. That's not what it is.
I guess that's the most surface level idea of luxury.
When people think luxury, they equate it to the dollar and cents.
Exactly.
Somehow they've mistaken that the dollar and cents that comes with luxury is the labor, the research,
The experience.
The experience is the eating part, but it's the making. The making is how did we arrive there? How do I swap my 20, 30 years of experience or 50 years of my life story to somebody who have just came out and did a plate? You can see the difference. There is a story or there's no story. There's a narrative or no narrative. Are you celebrating the provenance? All that terroir, provenance, and so forth is mandatory for you in order for you to know how to put a plate together. But how do you see and differentiate a master and a novice? A novice is busy screaming ideas. A master is totally at the point of reduction and deduction. We are focusing on singular matter. That's when you have a novice versus somebody who's experienced.
Right. Surface and depth.
Yes. And this is one thing I love about the Japanese culture. How to make every single thing great.
Quite interesting lessons that you learned. I want to ask, how old would you say, if you don't mind sharing, how old were you when you came to this realization?
I think I wasn't that fortunate because I wasn't like a super well-off family. So, I always joke about it. I think, I'm not sure whether it was you or somebody who has wrote my biography before and actually talk about, I come from Chinese village, gangster town in KL called Jinjiang. That's where I was born.
Okay.
So my total reference point of fine dine or ang mo eating, right?
Yep,
Western, one for a better word, was anything you eat with a fork and a knife. And mind you, at that point in time, KFC was my fine dine.
Oh,
that was the only place that I saw melamine white plates with chicken and vegetable and potato that I could not recognize. And we were having sauce bottle, and in the old days we had stainless steel taps with napkins and stuff. That was fine dine.
That was luxury.
Yeah, that was fine dine because it was expensive.
Yeah.
And it was only through celebration, right? Then slowly as I got a bit older, about 10, 11 years old, I remember going to the Ship. Oh my God, that was my first exposure to steak.
You'll never forget.
It was a shitty steak, but it's poignant.
Right.
It's poignant. I didn't know that we eat differently. In my mind, eating was just because my friends came over, Chinese, Malay, or Indian. We all ate the same way, right? So it's all the dishes in the center. Oh yeah, this curry. Oh, this is Malay rendang. Food.
Yes, communal eat
food
rice.
is dining, right? And this is good or this is bad. That's it. But suddenly the whole, I have to have utensils, there's rituals, there's
way of cutting.
table manners, how to put it in your mouth, that whole mystique. Even if you watch the TVB, when they go in the old 80s, right? Cafe, what do you want to drink? Cafe? Only coffee.
Right.
And orange juice. They serve nothing else, right? You always see people having that long, tall glass with that straw and the orange juice. Fine dine.
Okay. Obviously, the idea of fine dining shifts with the times.
Yeah, I think exposure.
Yeah.
Culturally, we're changing.
Yes.
We're evolving.
Yep. As you talk about change and now the customers' perception of fine dining has changed. I would say, from an outsider's point of view, and probably you would agree too, cooking at such a high level is very demanding. When you explain the quality of the ingredients, I'm here like, wow, okay, now I know why it's luxury, it's expensive. You're not only serving ingredients such a high quality level, you're preparing them with techniques that you learn and take time and master, right? But people who don't know that may not necessarily understand or appreciate that when they lack the education. So perhaps there's a disconnect.
Well, that's what we're facing a lot of in this country. So we're driven by the TikTokers and the Instagrammers.
The trends.
Yeah. The trending, what they are trying to define the dining scene. And that's what a lot of younger chefs are falling onto. We've been there long enough. I couldn't care less if you don't understand my food, but at least have the respect and do your homework to figure out what is good and what is not good. I'm okay for people to go and say that, oh, I had a great dining experience and the food was tasty. But I'm not for, I had a great picture-taking session, but I cannot comment about the food.
Who would say that?
Oh, plenty. That's how the whole entire F&B cycle, the whole industry has come down to. If you see, because these people are being paid to do advertisement and reviews.
Okay.
Is it genuine? How many times do you see some promos or some reviews by certain individuals and then you go and try and say,
There's a disconnect.
What was that about? You can't do that. You send young ones who have no idea what is Japanese cuisine, no idea of what is French cuisine, and you try to get them to rate somebody who's been working for 30 years, creating things that you don't even know what it is.
Right.
How do you rate that?
Of course you cannot, because it's.
Well, we get that. We get that in many publications that I've always got into severe argument with.
Yeah.
I choose not to even participate anymore or acknowledge them.
But okay, so from the other side of the fence, I would say, let's say back in the day, 10 years ago when I first met you, despite me having that passion, that thirst for learning more, I would say taste buds then, perception of fine dining then, also not as great as now, but it took time for me and true experience. I'm blessed and fortunate enough to taste all these meals.
Yeah. For you, though you may not know the ins and outs of how that dish was made, but you always had that curiosity of asking chef, how do you make it different? And why did it taste like that? So by asking the right question, you are able to get into the mindset of how we think and how do we want to make the thing. Mm-hmm. This is why I like talking to you, because you're not just flat there, oh yeah, I got a great picture. Okay, send me the menu and I'll just put it in the magazine.
If I ever said it, then you can slap me. I give you permission.
Well, I won't be talking to you. Right. So I think that's where quality writing is different. Not kissing up your ass, but the fact is, I also am very picky who writes my reviews, who does what I, get engaged with me in the old days. It's because I want to be responsible, not because I want to be nasty and make your life difficult. But I think as a chef, we have a great responsibility of sharing ideas and knowledge of what we have learned being abroad. So if you're going to come to my restaurant and want me to cook the way you want to eat, why come?
That's a very odd mindset to go to a restaurant, though.
But how many people will tell you that?
That's true. I've heard people say that before.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't taste like that. So it doesn't taste like that. So is your reference point right or wrong to begin with? All of us will agree the greatest cook in the world is our mother or whoever fed us at home.
I cannot agree, but...
But, whoever fed you is the greatest cook.
Oh, my grandma.
You grew up with it. That's your point of reference of the type of food or what deliciousness means to you. Mm-hmm. I'm fortunate. I was brought up by my grandmother, who was the greatest cook in my eye and still is one of the greatest cook that I've ever met. Even some of my chef that has tasted her food say she's a great cook, right? Because she did it from a different perspective, not through learning, but through discovery, through memory of the taste bud, memory in her mind, even though she had no idea what those ingredients were. So recreate it and then put her take on it. That's what made it interesting. And that journey has sculpted me in wanting to be a chef. When I see the joy of people tasting my food, closing their eyes, and that 1 minute, oh, chef, that was so good. That food orgasm second is totally immortalized by me.
So that's the reward enough for you?
That is the greatest reward. Great experiences with like your dad, your family, you know. I've known you for more than 10 years now, and it's such a fulfilling journey when you get to know people and you get to form their mind of what cuisine is. And that's why in Japan, not every chef would do omakase for every client. They can't. That chef needs to know you, how much you eat, what you don't eat, what you like.
Yeah,
you
to
know,
truly
how
understand
much.
you so they can create something that you would appreciate the most.
Correct. And it's not about creating that experience for the next person, because that next person's experience will be unique on its own.
It's no longer personalized already.
No, that's the art form. Though it says chef's choice, I select my ingredient, but I don't select what you like. I try to please you based on what I know of you. So it's a very difficult art form.
Yeah, it's a very intimate one, because if you lack the knowledge of that
Extremely.
person, you cannot create that personalized.
Correct. And that's why it is expensive, and that's why it takes time. So anyone who tries to book my personal omakase would know. I call you up personally 2 weeks beforehand to talk to you, to discuss, to understand what the celebration is about, or you're just coming to try my food, you know, or it's your first time. Usually, if people it's the first time, I try not to take them on.
Okay.
Yeah. Because,
Too many uncertainties.
well, I don't know them well enough, because part of the hosting, you know, dining with me is part of the experience is my personality, my, you know, my discussion throughout dinner with you. It's very one-to-one. And if I don't know you and you're not going to be like it's a bit difficult.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I want to know, it takes a collective team effort, as you just mentioned, of great magnitude to turn food into a multi-sensational experience that gratifies. It's very difficult, especially when talking like things like omakase, we just mentioned. Do you think there are certain instances when luxury goes too far?
Yes.
For example, I'll just give you 2 examples before we move on. In January of this year, 2024, do you know who Salt Bae is? He bragged about a $108,000 US bill in his restaurant in Dubai. So I had curiosity. I went to peek at his receipt, and there were things like his infamous golden steaks. $5,000 per steak, tips up to $20,000. That's just one instance of extravagance. And another is something like a restaurant called Sublimotion in Ibiza, where you pay, it's about $2,380 US per head. There's a 20-course meal, virtual reality, laser-like show, projection. Everything is an experience over 3 hours, but it's still very pricey. And they only open throughout the summer. So these are 2 very different kind of scenarios, and I just wanted to know your thoughts.
I think you have experienced my version of the sublimation before, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So we were the first to do it in Asia.
Yeah.
No easy feat. So you really pay for that experience. To be fair, I've not tasted Salt Bae's steak, so I cannot comment on his food quality. Based on his beef selection, of course he's serving the highest quality that he can get. I cannot fault him if there are people who are willing to pay what he's pricing, because his magic may not be in the cooking. His magic may be just in his personality, in his interaction, in his giving you that grand experience that no one else can, right? He is truly unique. At that level of pricing, it's totally personal. A bottle of Romani Conti, you can't put a price on it, even though if you can buy it. Is it a really great wine? Shit, yes. One of the best wines in the world. Because it was based on professional assessment, true art form, and quality. So the price equates to its scarcity, not because of just its technical prowess, not just because of its a great wine, but because it's very scarce, just like Krug. That's why at the House of Krug, we don't say Grand Cuvée is the start point. It's not. It's our ultimate reference point to make the rest of the champagne. But its price at that level is because of scarcity.
Right.
We are such a small house compared to some of the big giants. Right. But we make the best. We invested in the first 30 years of zero bottling. Who's going to do that? Just to build up the wine library. How do you put a price to that? So you're talking about two sublimation and Salt Bay. We're talking about something very, some would say subjective, but I think if you are an artist, I can't say he's a chef, but he provides dining experience. Great. Sublimation is a lot of wow factor, a lot of technology, a lot of creativity, huge team to put together that 4-person, 6-person meal.
Yeah.
I've done it before. I know how much it costs to make that, right? So, horses for courses. I don't think it's something that we can put them on a scale.
Yeah.
And
definitely not, which actually brings me to the next topic, because I feel like the nature of luxury food is already a weird mix of subjectiveness and objectivity. I'll give you an example. It's subjective in a sense where we just mentioned a couple of things. When you were a kid, KFC was luxury. When I was a kid, I thought Ferrero Rocher was luxury through advertising, through other influencers or people just telling me in general. But as I grow up, I know it's not luxury anymore. My perception changes, my taste bud changes, maybe perhaps external influences. It could be objective in nature, just as how you mentioned. For example, champagne, Krug champagne. The demand is high, but the supply is low. Therefore, the price goes up. It's a luxury item because it's objectively scarce. Caviar takes very hard to produce. Therefore, it's expensive, and you're paying for that luxury of having caviar.
Caviar is time, right?
Like whiskey.
Yeah, I want to stop you on Ferrero Rocher. I think it's a very interesting brand that you brought up. Ferrero Rocher, the Rocher itself, where is it made? Where's this product from? It actually uses the best hazelnut in the world.
Oh.
From Bronte, where hazelnut and pistachio is the king from Italy.
See.
The state of Bronte. But because you grow it, you can mass produce it, it doesn't mean that it's not luxurious.
That's true.
But it's still using the top best quality. And it's a product that's loved by everybody.
Yeah.
And it goes into your top hampers. You see, the strange thing about Ferrero Rocher is even the most expensive hamper, you put a box of Ferrero Rocher next to other handmade chocolates.
Yeah.
People won't go like, oh, you gave me shitty Ferrero? No. How many other chocolates try to make Ferrero as well? Oh, Rocher, not Ferrero.
Yeah,
right? Ferrero is the brand. So the point is scarcity also decides the price point.
Yeah.
But perception, what you're talking about is brand value. It's totally different.
I see. So my actual question is, what to you constitutes a luxury food? Is it a mix of everything you just mentioned?
I think scarcity that drives the value, or when you're trying to put dollar and cents to it. Luxury is also why at that point in time want to consume or need to consume that product.
Okay.
Right? And I think also accessibility. Access to ingredients, access to a certain thing defines the notion of luxury. When you're freaking thirsty in the desert.
What is a luxury?
So.
Okay.
But when you go to the Swiss Alps, you're looking water very differently. You're looking at different type of spring water, artisan, and blah, 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 blah. Right? So even now, that's why anything can be luxurious.
That's true.
Anything can be luxurious.
I want to know if you actually agree with this. So in my search for a definition of luxury food, I came across what the Australian Department of Primary Industries and Regions, not very sexy, but they have come up with a definition for what is a luxury food or beverage. And they say a luxury product possesses 6 key characteristics: price, unsurpassed quality, aesthetics, rarity, extraordinariness, and symbolism.
I think I talked about all that today.
So you agree?
I totally agree. I think that's the most non-subjective, but if you have to put a criteria set to how to define luxury, right? What's the difference between normal t-shirt and a branded t-shirt? Same quality fiber, material, but one which has a brand on it and the other doesn't. Or and the brand's not visible when I put two white t-shirts. One is from a super brand and one is a just normal t-shirt. And I ask you to select. Would you know?
Without any sense or touch. Hard?
Even give you sense or touch.
Hard,
it's
still
exactly
very hard,
the same.
I mean, if I don't have the skills to determine the quality, then I would not have the...
Unique criteria, right?
Yeah.
So objectivity, when you have to put it that way, so it comes down to who's defining it. Why can't a roti canai on the roadside become luxurious? If that roti canai was made by the king, would that make it luxurious? It's very like, wow, the king made the roti canai. Yeah. You don't even try to fathom how to put a price tag on it, right? Because it's a very special person. He likes to cook. He's a good cook.
Oh, I did not know that. Which actually kind of brings me to, I want to ask you, what kind of, since we want to identify what a luxury food is, and with some subjective criteria and objective criteria, but what to you are some luxury foods that you think are actually worth their high price tag? For example, Wagyu, caviar, truffles.
Caviar is absolutely one of the very few items that I would really say it's luxury. Because it's time and you have no control over it. You have to wait. Like it, you don't like it. You can't make the fish grow faster. You even though if you do, the quality is different. That creature is a prehistoric dinosaur that have survived civilization after civilization to be still here today. And unlike, the true quality caviar has nothing added to it. No salt, no nothing. The salinity, the taste is totally natural.
Oh.
So you are tasting something that is 100% unadulterated, unmanufactured, with no interference from us human beings. That is when you get, wow, real caviar. That's what we're talking about. Like Wagyu, you breed. And Wagyu is this 500 years? So, and also the definition of a Wagyu was us. It didn't grow, it wasn't naturally that way.
So you're saying it's man-made?
Yeah, we created it. The sturgeon, we didn't create, it predate us.
Right.
That is the interesting part.
Interesting comparison. So what would you say is the opposite? What is a luxury ingredient that you think may not be necessarily worth it?
Oh my God!
I know it's a tricky curve.
I'm gonna be assassinated very soon. I might have to, find a place to hide.
I'll hire you a bodyguard.
Yeah,
Sorry, James.
I think one of the most I won't say miss. I say something that is really abused is truffles.
I completely agree.
Truffle is so abused that to the point now you see truffle chips.
Yeah.
You see truffle this, truffle that, right? Half the time, in all seriousness, our country, this side of the world, cannot and should not bring truffles. We're so humid. This fungi doesn't like humidity and it loses the aroma. It loses its vivacious nature.
I mean, just by being in this climate, it loses its...
It kills it. That's why I have so many customers that keep saying to me, "Chef, why sell this when you know it's never going to be the same like in Italy or in France?" I said, yeah, because by the time it arrives here, it's at least 1-2 weeks old. And it's subjected to humidity and processing and blah, blah, blah. So truffles, you smell it 3 rooms away when it's fresh. And when you shave, it's hideous. It's delirious.
Sounds like a drug.
Yeah, it is. And that's why some people cannot take truffles because
Yeah.
it's so pungent.
So I'm one of those people. So people always look at me very weirdly and oddly when, sorry, you like food, but you don't like truffles? I'm allowed to not like truffles because of that pungency. You know, it's very overwhelming. I feel like if not used properly, it overpowers the dish.
100%.
And a lot of the times, in my experience, I don't know, maybe the person is not skilled enough to balance the other ingredients, and I just taste truffles all the time.
Well, a lot of truffles in this country has been adulterated with a lot of mushroom hidden in it.
Granted, I know we may not get the best truffles because, you know, we're probably like not a main market.
And we get like the 5-cent truffles.
5-cent truffles.
Those are like what we call really, really low grade truffles.
Oh gosh.
So, and
Back in the bin.
well, here people don't even peel their truffles.
You're supposed to peel truffles?
Oh yeah, that durian looking spiky
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
outside.
yeah.
It's hard. It's like a wood.
The protective...
You need to peel it off.
I see.
Otherwise, you're going to kill your shaving, your slicer, and also it's not tasty. So in Europe, we have to peel off, then we shave.
I see.
That's why you don't see that black line.
Right. Okay.
And because it's so small, the 5-cent truffles that I call them, you cannot shave off the shell.
It's
If
gone.
Otherwise you're left with nothing.
Right. Well, I think one of the most overhyped things in luxury, maybe, I don't know if it's a hot topic, I think edible gold leaf is totally unnecessary. Sure, it looks visually nice, but...
It's the notion of the equation of the value
Of gold.
of gold.
I get it.
It has no taste.
Yes, it's visual, for visual taste purposes.
Stimulating. Visually stimulating. It makes the mind thinks you're eating something.
Well, that
Fantastic.
I agree.
Right?
Okay. As someone of a connoisseur of fine things in life, James, you must have come across so many luxury experiences that you yourself have experienced. What is an underrated luxury experience you think other people should know about?
The most amazing experience I've had in terms of ultimate luxury was actually vegetarian cuisine.
How so?
I had it in Taiwan. It was phenomenal. We're eating moss, we're eating flora of things that I never thought would taste so good. And you don't miss not having meaty protein because it gives you the same umami equivalent. And I think satisfaction drives the experience.
Yeah.
So satiety is always my aim. I never aim for you walking away and say, "Oh, chef, I'm so full. Thank you for that meal." I say, "Fuck, okay, I overdid it." Right? that kills the whole luxury feel. Luxury is when you come in looking pretty, you walk out looking pretty, and it shouldn't feel like I have overdone it.
Bloated or...
No, you don't. That same beautiful Dior dress should go out looking the same. Because the art of luxury is when I look after you 360. That's when you walk away pretty, you walk away, great night. You know, if you're going for a hot date, ultimately you want to, extra
night well,
reward.
end the night well, yeah.
Have an extra reward. So,
Extra rewards.
so you don't want to work your meal away.
Yeah. But interesting that it was a vegetarian meal. Yeah, I guess vegetables in fine dining is very underrated.
There's a need for it because, like it or not, the world's population is growing bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes.
We are going to run out of food.
I agree. I want to steal your attention a little bit away from that and talking about ingredients into more of examining our local gastronomy scene. Yeah.
Okay.
Be prepared. Okay, so James, as one of the pioneers of the KL fine dining scene, what do you think we have accomplished as a collective force in the past 10 years?
I think it's very interesting that we now have a definition of modern Malaysian,
Oh yeah, that is exciting.
right? So that, to me, it shows that cuisine-wise, maybe we have managed to come up with something a bit more. I don't want to poo-poo on anyone's parade right now. It's a very touch and go topic.
Okay. I'll give you some time to...
I think it's interesting that we managed to sculpt a new a new category of food. I don't want to say it's right or wrong because it's relevant and it's something interesting. And it's nice to see that there's more and more Malaysian restaurants and Malaysian chefs that are starting to put more effort in defining this category. I think it's also given the younger generation or the next wave of chef a platform to grow on. So we should thank people like Darren Teo, Raymond Tam, and the others that I'm not too familiar with, that they decided to take on this category. I just hope that the young ones don't make it a fashion item and then again turn it into what we have seen, what they have done to omakase, and that's my big worry. But yeah, we have grown a lot. And the best thing is, I'm so excited to see that the younger generation are returning back to the country.
Oh yeah,
that is very, very encouraging for me from an industry point of view.
Yeah.
And now the best thing is, chefs are becoming icons.
Yeah. It's a celebrated profession.
Yeah. You imagine 10 years ago when you started interviewing me, pretty much people get bored of seeing me in the magazine because there was just me.
There's only a few.
Yeah, there was just me, you know.
Right.
There was really nobody else. Now you're seeing all the Darrens in magazine, you see all the Raymonds and all the other younger Masashi and
not just in food magazines, even fashion magazines.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right?
Yeah.
And lifestyle and so forth. So for me, it shows that the industry is starting to be invigorated, starting to stand up, starting to be counted for. So I'm very proud of that, to see that this whole bunch of people are making waves for the next generation.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're in a good place. I don't know whether I've seen this a couple of times. I feel like we're in a golden age of sorts.
No. We're far from golden age.
Not golden age yet?
No. That's where I like to make it very clear, because if we think now we're in the golden age, we will fall. We are at the infancy of defining who we are. From a cuisine point of view, we're far, 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 far away from being in the golden age. Until the world starts saying, an English chef saying, I'm doing modern Malaysian. Until you see a African or a Japanese chef saying that I'm doing modern Malaysian cuisine. Can we then say we may be in the golden age? Right now, it's new. It's a new term.
Maybe I'm just over enthusiastic.
Well, I like to think that you feel that we have progressed so much, but reality, we need to not lose that sight because it's so far away.
Right. What do you think we need to start working on to becoming an iconic food city? Like London, like New York, like Tokyo.
I wish that not just the chef would be proud of what we do. I wish that we Malaysians, citizens, politicians, everyone play the part and sell our cultural identity. If we as a nation stand by our restaurant scene, by supporting them, dining, sharing the experience, telling their friends their food stories that, wow, I had that great experience at Dewakan, I had a great experience at Beta, I had a great experience at Darren Chin. People will start asking, oh, I've not been. Oh, wow, I need to try.
Curiosity.
Yeah, and friends coming from abroad will be like, wow, amazing. And if we don't stand by these restaurants that are meant to be our superheroes, they will die. Then what are we left with?
This one is for someone listening, the audience listening who wants to become a chef, who is dreaming of becoming a chef.
Don't do it. Don't be stupid.
All right, there you have your advice. Don't do it.
No, seriously, I think to be a chef, I've said to my many students, I'm lecturing and so forth at universities. If you're not passionate, it's not a job for you. Being a chef, you don't get to eat when normal people eat. You don't get to have holidays when normal people have holidays. You don't get to sleep when people get to sleep. You don't even get to eat a proper meal at a normal humanly hours. If you still feel that is sexy, then come on board. I'm filled through the quest of curiosity for the love of making others happy, doing what I think I know how at best. So I'm pretty sure there are other fulfilling jobs that will give you the same joy. But I can tell you one thing though, underlining all these difficult things, being a chef, you have instant gratification when somebody loves your food. There's something magical about it that no other profession can give you.
The reward you were talking about earlier.
It's instantaneous. I cannot explain that feeling because it's not equivalent to winning the lottery. It's not equivalent to just graduating. It's not equivalent to getting married. I think the closest thing I would say, the day you become a father and pick up your own first child, that feeling of I've created this. This is my creation.
Yeah.
Then you will understand that feeling.
I'll let you know when I have a child and see if it's on par.
Yeah, that Uncle James said you're my miracle product.
Yeah.
What the?
when someone in his restaurant eats good food, it's the same feeling.
It's very magical. That's what I'm trying to equate to.
I see.
And that feeling, imagine, right? You have to wait 9 months to have that child.
Yeah.
For me, it's that instantaneous when that person put the spoon in their mouth. That is the drug.
Sounds like an addictive drug, though.
Very. Very.
Okay, so we're going to end the show on a very light and breezy game. So the last game I would like to present to you is something called Bougie Bites. Game is really simple. You pick one of the snacks we tried earlier and give us a chef-certified way to turn this simple treat, if our listeners to buy it at home, into a bougie bite.
They're so expensive. Okay, let's pick the caviar potato.
Caviar potato, okay. Why did you choose the caviar potato,
Because
James?
it didn't have much taste. So it was the best one.
It's very harsh.
Yeah.
So,
well, what was the name again?
In essence,
you better call me up. I'll give you some recipes.
okay. So,
I think turn this into something interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to their notion of trying to be in the seafood thing, right?
Okay.
I think if we crush this potato chips and turn it into a crumb, add a bit more dill and a bit of fresh chives. Okay.
mix it with the crumbs.
Yep, mix it together, chop it up, mix it together, and lightly batter a oyster, right? A very light batter or oyster, or it's just an egg wash. Don't even need the batter. Just an egg wash, let the crumbs stick, and then throw it in the fryer. And just let the egg come together without having to cook the oyster through and through. Because you don't need to cook the outside. It's already cooked. But you just want the egg to, so it's like a half-cooked oyster.
Interesting.
And that would be beautiful. You just have that oyster with a bit of lemon or lime.
So that's like almost like a black caviar potato chip oyster
Crumble.
crumble.
Yeah. Oyster and crumble.
There you have it, a super fancy at home, what do you call it in Japanese? Call it kaki fry?
Kaki fry.
Yes, oyster, what's it called? Fry, just fried
Tempura.
oysters. Yeah, like a tempura. There you go. Thanks for sharing, James. And
You're
on
welcome.
that note, we're going to bring this episode to an end. Thank you, James, for coming to the studio and catch up with me. It was long overdue. I really enjoyed the chat.
It's been a great chat.
Thank you. I'm Tian, and thanks for tuning in to Chew on This, where I'll always be bringing you in on the